My girlfriend said, "You spend too much time with your niece. She's not your daughter." My niece was 7 and her parents had just died in an accident. I was her legal guardian. I said quietly, "You're right, she isn't my daughter. She's my responsibility." Then I filed for full custody and removed my girlfriend from my emergency contact simultaneously. When social services called her for a reference check. Original post. 31 male. Need to get this off my chest because the last 3 weeks have been the hardest of my life, and the person I thought would be standing next to me through it just revealed who she really is. My older brother and his wife died in a car accident on a Tuesday evening. Some guy ran a red light, doing 60 in a 35. They were coming home from picking up a cake for my niece's school bake sale the next day. She's 7. Was sitting at home with a babysitter waiting for her parents to come back with a cake shaped like a unicorn. They never came back. I got the call at 9:47 p.m. I was at my girlfriend's apartment. We've been together 2 years. I'll spare you the details of that night, because honestly, I don't remember most of it. What I remember is showing up at my brother's house at midnight and my niece running to me in her pajamas asking where mommy and daddy were, and me having to sit on the floor of her bedroom and figure out what the hell you say to a 7-year-old. My brother had a will. Surprised me. Honestly, he was only 34, but he'd set it up right after my niece was born. I was named legal guardian. There was no question, no fight with anyone over it. Their house had a mortgage, but also had life insurance that would cover it. There was a small life insurance policy for my niece's care, enough to keep her stable, not enough to make anyone rich. About $180,000 total after everything's settled, held in a trust one manage until she's 18. So within a week, I moved out of my one-bedroom apartment and into my brother's house. I took a leave of absence from work. I'm an electrician for a commercial contractor. My foreman was cool about it. I enrolled in grief counseling for both me and my niece. I started learning how to braid hair from YouTube at 2 a.m. I burned mac and cheese 3 times before I figured out you actually have to watch it. My girlfriend, let's just call her what she is at this point, my ex, was supportive for about 5 days. And I'm putting that in quotes because her version of support was texting me, thinking of you, once a day and showing up on Saturday with takeout, and then getting annoyed when my niece wanted to eat with us instead of in her room. Yeah, she suggested a 7-year-old orphan eat alone in her room so we could have a date night. I let that slide. I shouldn't have, but I was running on 4 hours of sleep and grief brain, and I just didn't have the energy. Then the comments started. You know, my co-worker's cousin took in her nephew, and she said it basically ruined her 20s. Have you thought about whether your parents could take her instead? They're retired, right? I just feel like we never have alone time anymore. This was 2 weeks after my brother died. 2 weeks. My niece was still waking up screaming for her mom every night. I was sleeping on a sleeping bag on her bedroom floor because she couldn't be alone. And my girlfriend was upset about alone time. But the moment, was last Thursday. My niece had a rough day. Her school counselor called me and said she'd had a breakdown during class. Another kid said something about Mother's Day coming up. I left the job site mid-shift to pick her up, brought her home, made her a blanket fort in the living room, put on Moana, sat with her while she cried herself to sleep on my lap. My girlfriend came over that evening, saw me on the couch with my niece asleep on me, still in the blanket fort, and said, and I quote, "You spend too much time with her. She's not your daughter. You're 31. You're acting like a single dad, and that was not the plan." The plan. She said the plan, like my brother dying, was an inconvenience to her 5-year relationship timeline. I looked at her. I looked at my niece. And I said, real quiet because I didn't want to wake her up, "You're right. She isn't my daughter. She's my responsibility. And right now you're not." She did that laugh. You know the one, the disbelief laugh that people do when they're not actually finding anything funny. So if you're choosing a kid over your girlfriend, I'm choosing a kid who has nobody else over someone who's showing me she can't handle that. She grabbed her purse, said, "When you come to your senses, call me," and left. I didn't call. Instead, I did 2 things that night after I put my niece to bed. First, I had already started the full legal custody process. My brothers will name me guardian, but the court still has to formalize everything, do home studies, the whole 9. I called my attorney the next morning and made sure every single thing was airtight. Made sure my documentation was clean. Second, I went through every emergency contact form, every medical form, every school form, anywhere my girlfriend was listed, and removed her. Doctor's office for me, my niece's school emergency pickup list, my phone's emergency contacts, everything. Took me about 20 minutes. Should tell you something that it only took 20 minutes to erase her from the important parts of my life. Here's where it gets interesting. Part of the custody process involves social services doing a home study and reference checks. They talk to people in your life to make sure the child is going to a stable environment. My attorney had submitted my reference list weeks ago, before the breakup, and my girlfriend was on it. The caseworker called her. My girlfriend, sorry, ex, told the social services caseworker, and I am not exaggerating, that she had concerns about my ability to balance personal relationships with childcare responsibilities and that I had become obsessive and isolated since taking on the child. The child. She called my niece the child. My caseworker flagged it. Called me in for an additional meeting. I had to sit in a government office and explain that my ex-girlfriend was retaliating because I chose my orphan niece over date nights. I brought text messages. I brought screenshots of her suggesting my niece eat in her room. I brought the text where she literally said this wasn't the plan. The caseworker, God bless this woman, looked at the screenshots, looked at me, and said, I see what's happening here. This won't be an issue. But it could have been. It could have delayed or complicated the custody process. For a 7-year-old who has already lost everything. Because my ex was petty enough to try to weaponize a social services reference check. I'm shaking typing this. Not from anger. From the realization of what could have happened if I hadn't saved those texts. My niece asked me yesterday if my girlfriend was coming over again. I said no. She said, okay, and went back to coloring. That's it. A 7-year-old processed this breakup more maturely than a 29-year-old woman. If you're reading this and you're in a relationship with someone who sees a grieving child as competition, run. Don't walk. I'll update if anything else happens because honestly knowing my ex, this isn't over. Update 1, 9 days later. All right, y'all, buckle up because my ex apparently decided that losing her boyfriend wasn't enough. She needed to try to lose my respect for the entire human race while she was at it. First, thank you to everyone who commented on the original post. A lot of you told me to document everything, and a few of you who said you work in family law told me the social services thing could have been way worse than it was. Trust me, I know. I've had nightmares about it. So after the social services thing, I thought maybe she'd just disappear. We don't share a lease, don't have joint finances, nothing tying us together. 2 years, and honestly the cleanest breakup logistics you could ask for. All she had at my brother's house was a phone charger and a hoodie she left in my truck. But nah, that would be too easy. 3 days after my original post, she showed up at my brother's house. Didn't call, didn't text, just pulled into the driveway at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. My niece and I were in the middle of making tacos. It's become our Tuesday thing. She picks the toppings, I handle the stove. She's in charge of cheese distribution, which means everything gets approximately 4 pounds of shredded cheddar. Doorbell rings. I open it. There she is with a gift bag. I brought something for your niece. Can I come in? Now look, I wanted to believe this was genuine. For about 0.4 seconds. But the gift bag was from that expensive boutique at the mall, the one she shops at for herself. And she was dressed up. Full makeup, nice outfit. This wasn't a woman coming to apologize. This was a woman coming to perform. Now's not a good time. I just want to give her this and talk to you for 5 minutes. My niece yelled from the kitchen. I asked that the pizza guy. No, sweetie, it's nobody. Go check the cheese. My ex's face when I said nobody. If looks could kill, I'd be writing this from the afterlife. 5 minutes, she said. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She launched into this whole thing about how she reacted badly and wasn't prepared for how fast everything changed and just needs me to understand her side. At no point, I want to be crystal clear, at no point did she apologize for the social services call. At no point did she say she was wrong. It was all about how SHE felt, how SHE was blindsided, how SHE had plans for us. Then she dropped this gem. I talked to my mom about it, and she agrees that you're taking on too much. You're not equipped to raise a child alone. My mom said, your mom is not part of this conversation. You try to sabotage my custody case. I didn't sabotage anything. I was being honest. They asked for my opinion, and I gave it. You told a caseworker I was obsessive and isolated. You are isolated. You don't go out anymore. You don't see your friends. My brother died 8 weeks ago. I'm raising his kid. What exactly do you think my social calendar should look like right now? She started crying. And here's the thing. 6 months ago, those tears would have wrecked me. I would have folded. But something shifted in me when I became responsible for another human being. I could see the tears for what they were, a tool. Not grief. Not remorse. A negotiation tactic. I think you should go. You're going to throw away 2 years because of this? You threw it away when you called social services and tried to make me look like an unfit guardian. She left the gift bag on the porch. I opened it later. It was a $60 stuffed unicorn. My niece already has about 30 stuffed animals, most of them from her parents. I donated it to the children's hospital. Felt right. But wait, there's more. The following weekend, I'm at the grocery store with my niece. She's sitting in the cart doing her thing, pointing at every cereal box with a cartoon on it, explaining to me very seriously why Lucky Charms are the most important food. We turn the corner into the frozen aisle, and there's my ex. With her mother. Her mom spots us first. And this woman, who I've sat across from at Thanksgiving dinner twice, who once told me I was the best thing that happened to her daughter, looks at my niece in the cart and says, loud enough for people to hear, "That poor little girl. It's just so sad what's happening to her." My ex grabbed her mom's arm, and they walked away, but the tone. What's happening to her? Like I was the tragedy. Like me raising my niece was some kind of abuse. My niece looked at me and said, "That lady was weird." And honestly, perfect read, kid. That's when I called my attorney again. I told him everything. The showing up unannounced, the grocery store incident, the social services sabotage. He said the magic words. "Do you want to cease and desist?" Yes. Yes, I did. The cease and desist was sent on a Monday. Standard stuff. No contact, no showing up at my home, no discussing me or my niece with any agencies or institutions. Her response was to have her mother call me. Not her. Her mother. At 8 a.m. on a Wednesday. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was 4 minutes long. The highlights. I'm tearing the family apart. We're not family. Her daughter gave me the best years of her life. She's 29, so the best years were 27 to 29 apparently. I'm going to regret this when that little girl becomes a teenager and I can't handle it. I should think about what my brother would want, ma'am. My brother would want his daughter to be safe, and he'd want you to stop calling me. I saved the voicemail. Of course I saved it. At this point, I've got a folder on my phone called Receipts, and it's getting thick. My attorney sent a second letter. This time to the mother, too. Here's the part that actually matters, though, and it's not about my ex. The home study went perfectly. My caseworker came, saw my niece's room. Same room she's always had. I didn't change anything except adding a night light she picked out. It's a little moon, saw the fridge stock, saw the school enrollment, saw the grief counseling receipts, saw my work schedule that my foreman adjusted so I could do school drop-off and pick-up. She told me. Not officially, she was careful about that, but she told me things were looking very good. That my niece was clearly bonded with me, clearly safe, clearly cared for. I sat in my truck after that visit and cried for 20 minutes. First time I cried since the funeral. Not because I was sad, because I was so goddamn terrified it might not work out, and someone finally told me I was doing okay. My niece is doing better. Not good. Better. She still asks for her mom sometimes. She still has bad nights. But she laughed at dinner last night. Real little kid belly laugh because I accidentally dropped the taco directly onto my lap and said, "Well, now my shorts have dinner." First time I'd heard that laugh in weeks. More updates if the X circus continues. Hoping the cease and desist sticks, but honestly, I know these people. Update 2, 16 days later. Final update because honestly, I'm tired of giving this situation real estate in my brain, and I'd rather use that space for remembering which day is library book return day. It's Wednesday. I've been told 3 times by a very serious 7-year-old. So, the cease and desist worked on my ex. She stopped contacting me directly. But apparently she decided to take a different approach, and this is where it gets genuinely unhinged. She started telling people, mutual friends, acquaintances, anyone who would listen, that the reason we broke up was because I chose to become a father figure and completely changed as a person, and that she's grieving the relationship and just trying to get closure, framing herself as the victim. Classic move. And honestly, some people bought it. I lost 2 friends over this. A couple we used to hang out with who told me I was being really cold and could have handled the breakup with more grace. More grace. My brother is dead, and I'm supposed to break up with more grace. I let those friendships go. Didn't fight it, didn't explain myself. If someone hears his brother died and he's raising his orphan niece, and their takeaway is, but he was mean to his girlfriend about it, those aren't my people. But here's what my ex didn't count on. The rest of our friend group isn't stupid. My buddy, known him since college, real one, called me and said, "Hey, your ex is telling anyone who will listen that you abandoned her because of her niece. I just want you to know, I told her to her face that she should be embarrassed. Didn't ask him to. Didn't know he did it until after." That's a friend. Then my coworker, another solid dude, told me that my ex had somehow gotten his number, probably from back when we all went to a barbecue together, and texted him asking if I was doing okay and whether I seemed overwhelmed. He screenshotted it and sent it to me with, "Bro, is she trying to build a case or something?" That's exactly what she was doing. Or trying to anyway, building a narrative, collecting witnesses who would say I was struggling, overwhelmed, not coping, so that if the custody situation ever came back around, she'd have ammunition. This woman was trying to build a paper trail to challenge my fitness as a guardian. Not through the legal system, through gossip, through social engineering. Because the direct social services route didn't work, she was going around the back. My attorney, and I swear this man has earned every dollar I've paid him, sent one final letter. Not just a cease and desist this time. A formal notice that any further attempts to contact third parties regarding my fitness as a guardian or to interfere with the custody process directly or indirectly would result in a tortious interference claim and a potential harassment filing. Big legal words. Expensive legal words. But necessary ones. Her mother, because of course it's the mother again, called my attorney's office directly. Not me this time. She learned that lesson. She called the lawyer to argue. His paralegal told me she was on the phone for 6 minutes before she was informed that any further calls would be documented and included in a potential filing. She didn't call back. Now here's the thing I keep going back to. Through all of this, the social services sabotage, the showing up, the grocery store, the smear campaign, the social engineering, my ex never once, not a single time, asked how my niece was doing. Not once. Never said, "How is she handling school?" Never said, "Is she sleeping better?" Never asked about the kid at the center of all of this. Because my niece was never a person to her. She was an obstacle, a scheduling conflict, a wrench in the plan. And that tells me everything I need to know about the 2 years I spent with this woman. I was in love with someone who saw a 7-year-old at the worst moment of her life and thought, this is inconvenient for me. Anyway, the legal stuff is wrapping up. I got a court date for the final custody hearing. My attorney is confident. My caseworker submitted a positive report. My references, my foreman, my college buddy, my niece's school counselor, my own therapist, all submitted statements. The judge will review everything, and barring something completely unexpected, the formal custody order will be granted. My ex will not be a factor. Her social services comment was noted in the file, alongside my evidence that it was retaliatory. My attorney made sure of that. It actually worked in my favor. Showed the court I was proactive about protecting my niece from unstable influences. Ironic. The cease and desist plus the legal threat finally did what common decency couldn't. I haven't heard from my ex or her mother in 11 days. Longest streak since the breakup. My attorney said that usually when people go quiet after a legal threat, they stay quiet. They bluff loud and fold quiet, is how he put it. I still lost those 2 friends. That stings a little, not gonna lie. But my college buddy checked in on me 3 times this week. My foreman gave me a permanent schedule adjustment, so I can always make school pickup. My neighbor, older lady, been on the street for 30 years, knew my brother, started leaving banana bread on my porch every Sunday with a note that just says for the chef and the sous chef. My niece thinks she's the chef. I don't correct her. Last Thursday, my niece had a parent-teacher conference. I went, sat in one of those tiny chairs. Her teacher showed me her work. She drew a picture of her family. It was her parents in the sky, with angel wings, and me next to her holding her hand. She drew me way too tall and gave me purple hair for some reason, but we were both smiling. I put on the fridge, right in the center. A couple days ago, she asked me if I was ever going to get a new girlfriend. I said I didn't know. Maybe someday. She thought about it for a second and said, okay, but she has to like tacos. I told her that was a completely reasonable requirement, and we shook on it. I'm not going to pretend everything is fine. It's not. I'm 31, and I'm raising a 7-year-old who lost her parents. And some nights, after she goes to bed, I sit on the back porch, and I don't know what I'm doing. I miss my brother so much it's physical. I'm terrified I'm going to mess this up. I'm learning as I go, and the learning curve is vertical. But I'm here. She's here. The custody is almost finalized. The tacos are improving. The cheese distribution remains aggressive. And the only person who tried to take this from us is now legally required to leave us alone. My brother picked me for this. I won't let him down. That's it. That's the whole story. Thanks for reading. Thanks for the support on the earlier posts. I'm logging off this account and going to go help a very opinionated second grader with her book report on a book about a dog who solved mysteries, which she says is the best book ever written, and honestly, who am I to argue? Take care of the kids in your life, y'all, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.